Hey guys, it's Miss Smith. All right, so this week we are going to do skyscrapers going to the vanishing point using 1 point perspective like we have been. Um, and so that's what's going to be due this week. I'm going to do at least two videos, one that does the buildings and then one that shows you how to decorate the buildings in different ways. And then, of course, like what I just said, that's what will be due this week. All right. So to start this one, I'm going to put the vanishing point in the center of my paper. You can just eyeball it. You don't have to measure. This does work with the vanishing point in different places, but for the learning of it, I would just put it in the center. And then once you understand it, if you want to move it, you can. I might even do a video where I briefly show you where it's off-centered. It can look very interesting that way and look a little bit more dramatic. All right, so this is going to be like we're looking up at the skyscraper. So we're standing on the ground and we are looking up at the sky. So the sky is going to be back here when we finish. All right, so it's very important. You are only going to draw 3 lines in this, 3 types of lines. Your lines are either going to be horizontal, which is side to side. They're going to be vertical, or they're going to be drawn when your ruler is going to your vanishing point. That is it. If you draw a slanted line, this line right here is slanted, but it is not going to my vanishing point. That is an incorrect line. You will not draw any lines in the making of your buildings that are not horizontal, vertical, or going to your vanishing point. That is the number one problem when we do this assignment in the classroom. Okay. So once you get the steps of these buildings, all you're going to do is repeat the step over and over and over again for each building. So try not to change the steps because, again, that's something that happens in the classroom. Sometimes our brain just makes us think that we should change things up. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first building. The simplest buildings with the fewest steps are those that are going to be in the cross of your vanishing point. So it's kind of like when we have a box right underneath the vanishing point, we can't see the sides. On this building, we can't see the sides. And because of this perspective, we also can't see the top. We can't see the roof on this. So all we're going to see is the front that's facing us. You can put your first line, which will be horizontal, side to side. You can put it as close to your vanishing point, or you can put it further away. The closer you put it to the vanishing point, the smaller you want to make it, because the closer it is to the vanishing point means it is getting further and further away. So if we do a really big line here, what you're going to notice when I show you the second step is the building is going to get very wide at the bottom, and you might not like that. It's not wrong. You just might not like it. So if you do it and you don't like it, just erase it and we'll change it. No big deal. So step one. Step one is to draw a horizontal line. Step 2 is to take the edges from the vanishing point. The difference this time is I'm not going to draw here between the line and the vanishing point. I'm actually going to draw down to the edge, to the bottom of the paper. And I'm going to draw down. There's a building. If I want to draw one over here that's directly under the vanishing point, I'll want to turn my paper and do a horizontal line. I'm going to do it under the building, but I'm going to do it a little bit further down. So I'm going to do a larger line. It's longer. And I'm going to draw it from the vanishing point. Okay. All right. And I could continue that on either side. So your first step when you make a building is to draw a horizontal line. If it makes sense to you to keep your paper one direction and you do a vertical when you're on the sides, you can. Usually in the classroom, the students just keep turning their paper and doing the same steps over and over again. And I don't want you to worry about where the building's going to come from. Is it going to come from the bottom? Is it going to come from the side? Is it going to come from this side? I want you to just follow the steps, okay? So in these two buildings, we did the first 2 steps. Horizontal line, take it to the vanishing point, okay? And those buildings are done. Now I'm going to do another building that's off to the side here, and it is going to have an additional step to it. I'm going to start with the first step, though, horizontal line. Again, don't even worry right now. Is that building going to come from here or from here? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just do the step. Horizontal line. And then to my vanishing point. Okay. Now we add step 3. You can kind of see, like, to me, it kind of looks like a diving board or something. I could jump off. It looks like it's empty right here. So that's where step 3 is going to come in. Step 3 is to create a right angle. That's a 90-degree angle. Making an acute angle or an obtuse angle is not correct. Acute is small, obtuse is big. So we want to make sure that we make a right angle. So this is where your vertical line is going to come in. And you're going to go straight down. Now, you are not going to pull this line all the way down to the bottom of the paper. That looks strange. I see students do that sometimes. But this is going to determine the width of your building. So you can decide how far you want to bring it down. When you decide, then we're going to take this line to our vanishing point. Now, before I do that, if you have something that has a right angle, that helps in the classroom for students to check, because sometimes we think it's a right angle, but it's not. But I've got a corner here. I've got a right angle on my ruler. So look, I can stick my ruler right in my angle, which tells me it's a right angle. I have a napkin here. You could put a napkin in there and you can tell. I've got my sketchbook. Let me open to the back page of my sketchbook. My tripod's kind of in the way. Let me turn it. And that will also fit. So anything that has a corner, you could use that to check and see if your angle is correct. And so you can make sure you have a right angle. So now I'm going to take the bottom of that line. I'm going to line my ruler up with my vanishing point in that line and go down. And now I have a building from there. So I'm going to take a moment and I'm just going to add some buildings. Here's what happens in the classroom. Somebody wants to make a building from this corner, and so they do a slanted line right here. And then they draw from the vanishing point. That is an incorrect building. And what will happen when you're trying to do something in linear perspective and you're not doing it correctly, because sometimes I will have students who even come to class and they're like, Miss Smith, I can already draw a cube. But here's the thing, they can't draw multiple cubes that look like they're coming from the same perspective point, which then to someone who knows what they're doing, it makes your work look novice. It makes it look beginner, and you can't grow in sophistication from that way. And at some points you can say, well, I don't really care. But then the other point, you might one day not want your artwork to look like elementary work. You might want it to look more sophisticated. And if you stay in a place where you're not following the rules on how the world works when we're seeing it realistically, then you stay at a very elementary level. Because you'll notice that, like, little kids, they will draw, I'll erase this, they might draw, a little kid might have a car from a side view, and then they're going to have, let me make sure that's even dark enough and on the screen. Okay. And then they may have the road on there from like a bird's eye view, like they're looking down on the road, but they're looking out at the car. Because when little kids draw, they don't really think about how all the perspective points work together. And so learning how to do this helps you start to think that way, which is going to make your work look more sophisticated. All right, so I'm going to start here. Again, I don't care what side it's coming from. I'm not trying to get one from the corner. I'm just going to draw a horizontal line. Horizontal line, step 1. Vanishing point. Step 2. It is easier if you have a ruler or a straight edge. I'm not using one right now because I know not everyone has one at home. Right angle into your vanishing point. And there's a building. Now, in this one here, if you ever wonder, well, do I need a right angle or not? Because Ms. Smith, I'm not sure. If I try to do a right angle from that corner straight down, it goes through it. It goes in the building. And back from the very, very beginning, if it goes through it, we don't do it. So I know I won't do that. So sometimes I'll have students who go out to the corner and then try to do an edge like that. Well, for one, that's an obtuse angle. And if I put my ruler in here, here's my right angle. This is not a right angle. So if you will use something to help check you, you should be able to tell if you're doing it correctly. All right, so I'm going to add a building here so that I can create some overlapping, because from our studies, we know that creating overlapping helps add another dimension to our illusion of space. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a horizontal line. You know what? I'm going to make this stop like right here so I can show you that too. So I'm going to do a horizontal line. I'm going to take it from a vanishing point. Use my ruler since I've got it with me today. Okay. Now, if you make your building stop right in line with the vanishing point, it's going to go straight down. It's not wrong, but it can make you go, wait a minute, do I need a side? Do I not need a side? I typically will either shorten my building on purpose or I'll lengthen my building on purpose, because I don't like it when they fall right here, because it just leaves that kind of spot here where it's kind of like, should I add one? Should I not add one? I can't add one because to make a right angle, it would go straight down. So I can't add one. It's correct. I just don't, it kind of bothers me. So I could either make it longer. I could either make it longer and do it that way, or I'll make it shorter, or I could make it shorter, and now I need to add a right angle. It's a really skinny angle because the closer I get to the vanishing point, the thinner that's going to be. If I'm further away, I'll have a bigger side, but I can fit that right angle in there, and then boom, so I've got a small side there. Let's add another one here, and then I'm going to turn my paper. So I'm going to take a few minutes. Make sure I'm on my screen. Erase the building that's behind. This one is can have a right angle. Whoa, my pencil led. This one can have a right angle. And come down. I could even stick one behind here if I wanted to. Let's do it over here. That over there is getting a little crowded. Start with a horizontal line, always. Come down, and when I touch that building, I'm just going to stop, because I'm going to pretend this building goes behind that building. Oops, didn't quite touch them. I'll make that happen. Okay, right angle. And then take that one down. Whoops, right there. All right, so now I can start to draw those buildings. Okay, so if I'm now going to do one over here, horizontal line, vanishing point, just say the steps in your head as you draw. Horizontal line, vanishing point, and then check and see if it needs a right angle. If it needs a right angle, take it down and then take that to the vanishing point. I will also type those 4 steps in the assignment in case you need to glance back at them. All right, so what I like to have is about 10 to 12 buildings, but of course you can do more. I have some students that just really go crazy and do a whole bunch of buildings. And I like to have buildings from every side of the paper. All right, because of its position with the vanishing point, this one will not have a side, and neither will that one. Okay, so now I can turn my paper. Oh, I hope I wasn't going off the screen. This tripod that I have, I did not purchase it for this. It was one I already had to attempt to make some videos when I was doing color pencil work. Anyway, I wish I had a better one. I haven't looked at Walmart, but I have tried to order some stuff off Amazon, and it has taken over a month, even with Prime. I don't know if any of y'all have had that experience or not. Right angle. I even ordered some toilet paper on there over a month ago, afraid the stores might not have any, and it still has not gotten here. Luckily, the stores had some. That is one crazy thing that we will remember from all of this. Toilet paper shortage. Okay. Right angle. Whoop, I went under my ruler there. All right. So I'm going to stop here. And in the next video, I will pick up again and start showing you how to put lines or windows or signs, anything that you want to put on these buildings. All right, message me if you have questions. Thanks, guys.